Well, hello, friends. Welcome to the COGO Podcast. My name's R.W. Moody. I'm the Associate State Pastor here in the great state of Ohio, and you're listening to the COGO Podcast. And so, actually, I guess if you're watching this on YouTube, you're watching it. I need to get in the better practice of saying that. But anyway, here's the COGO Podcast. So, the purpose of this podcast is to move leaders in Ohio to be challenged through bite-sized conversations about ministry, leadership, and growth. And so we'd invite you just to take a listen, to step into your God call and to be challenged as we move together here in this great state. And so, as we talked about previously in our episodes, this year we are focusing a lot on the idea of discipleship. And so throughout different people's experiences of discipleship, we want to bring those stories to the forefront and also those training points to the forefront. So today, we have with us Tina Yarger. Hello, Tina.
Hey.
How's it going today, Tina?
It's good. It's cold out, but it's good.
Yes, we are recording this on a day when the whole state of Ohio got walloped with snow.
Yeah.
Did you see that? Every county in the state of Ohio last night was in a winter weather advisory.
Yeah, it's crazy. And, kudos to all of those that plow the roads. Because my dad was one of those, and he was out plowing at 4 a.m. this morning.
Oh, my lands. Well, thank you for helping us be able to get to where we need to go.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that you were able to join us on the podcast today. Looking forward to this conversation.
Me too. I think this is going to be a great conversation.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about yourself, where you serve, and the capacity that you serve in.
So I serve at Avenue Church in Mansfield.
Yep.
Yeah. So I am the gathering pastor, which I'm sure is very vague for those of you that are not familiar with that. So basically what that is our recovery ministry. And I use recovery very lightly because I think there's a stigma attached to recovery. But the truth is we're all recovering from some sort of sin, right? So the program is for anybody struggling with anything, whether that's just finding social support, whether that is addiction, whether that's an eating disorder, whatever it is. And so that's kind of what we do. And if you talk to my husband, he'll also tell you I'm the church therapist.
Which we all need that at some point in time, right?
Yeah, including me.
So, that we're taking this year to really focus in on discipleship, and you have a really interesting story about discipleship. So who was it that first introduced you to the practice of discipleship, and how did that person go about discipling you? So
it was my grandma. She actually discipled me without me knowing it.
I've heard that story. It's incredible. Tell us a little bit more.
Well, mostly I had no idea what the language of discipleship was.
Yeah.
I've never heard it until really when I made faith my own and I started to do searching on my own. So I grew up always being a Christian. I can't remember a time when I wasn't or when I didn't believe in Jesus. I remember being as young as, probably 8, and my grandma handing me a King James Bible. And I'm just learning to read at this point.
I'm envisioning trying to pronounce the word thou.
Yeah. And that's exactly my experience. I'm like, I can't understand these words. I can't even pronounce these words. And so I'm trying my best. And my grandma, bless her heart, is encouraging me through all this. But I'm like, I have no idea what I'm reading. It feels like a foreign language.
Yeah.
And so after that, I was very discouraged from reading the Bible.
Okay.
So I always tell people that I disciple to make sure that they check their version or their translation they're reading out of. Because I can't tell you how many people have that same story and get frustrated because they just don't know.
Yeah.
But I remember even being little, and my grandma had this book that had little Bible stories in it. And then a picture that you could cover. And it was a really nice book. Like it was a hardback coloring book is what it was. But it shared like different pieces of the gospel. And the tradition is at every family gathering or holiday that were together, every cousin, sibling would color in that book and we would date it.
Okay.
So that was like tradition. And then there would be times, this is what I remember the most about my grandma. She was always the person that I ran to whenever I needed prayer, because something about grandma's prayers were more powerful than anybody else's on the planet. And so I would always go to her whenever I needed prayer for literally anything and everything, right? She tells me stories of when I was little, when I would pray for my mom. I don't remember those stories, but she does. And I think it's funny because my kids are doing the same thing now.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so it's really cool to kind of see that legacy being played out.
Yeah.
And then she would stick in little like Bible verses. Like if I was going through something, she would be like, oh, read this. Or she would just like, just say the verse out loud. I didn't really know it was in the Bible because, again, I'm still intimidated by the Bible throughout my life. So she would just slip it in our conversations any way that she could. And that's pretty much how I was discipled.
So a relational commitment by your grandma to truly influence you in ways that were unknown to you, that stirred in your heart to push you toward Jesus.
Yeah. And I even remember as a kid growing up, I always wanted to be in church. I had friends that were Catholic. I'm going to mass. I had friends that, attended different churches, and I would show up to like different youth groups. Like I always somehow wanted to find myself in a church.
Okay.
I never understood why. I understand it now, but like that was my place of peace and comfort. That's the place that made me feel really good.
Gotcha. So what was it, Tina, that finally made you realize or helped you realize that you had a need for Jesus?
So really, what happened, I'm going to try to put this in a short story. So basically, when I was 18, my dad passed away from cirrhosis of the liver. And then a year later, I lost my mom to lung cancer.
Good.
When my dad passed away, my faith didn't really waver because there was a moment where I remember, like, I was just sobbing, like so broken. And I somehow got myself up and together and walked outside. It was a blizzard out when this happened. Like you could not see to drive, nothing. And I got up and I walked outside, and I'm not joking. The sky lit up and opened. And I was like, holy cow. I'm like, this is the moment where I knew that God was real, like real. Like that was my experience. And so I was like, okay, my faith is good. We're good here. But when my mom passed away, it was different. I was angry. Yeah. I was like, I'm done praying. I'm done going to church. I was just done because I was angry. The problem with that is I formed this view of God that was completely false. And that's what shattered my faith, because I believed with every being, every inch of my body, that God would answer my prayers if I prayed enough, if I attended church enough, if I tithed enough, all the things.
Yeah.
And so I believed if I did that, God was going to save my mom. Well, he didn't. And the problem with that was not with God, it was with me. Because I failed to open my Bible and understand who Jesus and the God of the Bible, who they truly are. Yeah. And so that's where I failed. So I lost my way, probably committed every sin you could think of besides murder. And it wasn't until I had my first daughter that my husband and I were like, we have to make a change. Something has to give. And I'm still kind of like wrestling in my spirit, but I'm like, I know this is the right move.
Yeah.
His cousin was getting married. And I did not want to go to this wedding. It took so much for me to go. And I understand why now, because my life was about to change.
Yeah.
So we show up to this wedding and Nate is doing the wedding. And I'm like, this guy can preach. This wedding is pretty amazing. Like, it was probably one of the best wedding ceremonies I have ever seen. And so I got a little curious, and we talked to Nate and Liz a little bit, and then they invited us to church that Sunday. We showed up and we never left. And so because of my anger in that, I'm like, there is no way I'm going to let my faith fail again, because I'm just listening and putting my faith on the backs of other people instead of making it my own. So I committed myself to action and sat down and read my Bible every single day, because I wanted to make sure that the guy on the stage was teaching me straight from the Bible.
Good.
And so that's what I did, and my entire life changed because of it.
That's awesome. So how has that incident guided your passion for discipling other people toward Jesus? I mean, obviously, grandma is influencing you toward Jesus. You come to a place where you recognize the need for him. So how has all of that now invigorated this passion in you to equip others to disciple?
So for me, it's two things. So one, the reason I'm even in the ministry that I'm in is because I want people to know that Jesus really can heal. Yeah. Because I came from a place of depression and anxiety and, a really dark place. Grieving in itself, a lot of people will turn away from God during grief, or they run to him. It's usually one of two things. And so I also wanted to make sure that my dad's death wasn't in vain. Okay. And so I'm like, you know what? How can I help other people? How can I give them hope? And so for me, that I was like, let's just start a small group for anybody dealing with mental illness or addiction. And God was like, that's not good enough. And I'm like, I don't know what you mean by that. It scared me to death. And I was telling my cousin about this. She's like, you need to look into Celebrate Recovery. I had no idea what that was. And so I looked into it and I'm like, yep, that's it. And so I got a hold of Nate and I'm like, hey, I think this is what we need to do. And eventually we started it up. And so I just really want people to know that, one, do your research on who Jesus is for yourself, because he will show up.
Absolutely.
Open your Bible, read it. It will change your life. It did for me. And two, there is so much blessing in discipleship and watching people change and transform.
Yeah, I agree.
I have seen people who have had some really tough demons to battle, who have completely did a 180. And it never gets old, because I'm still like, holy cow, this is real. Like, this is my real life. I get to experience this. I get to watch people heal and transform. It is so cool.
So Tina, I mean, you talked about that life transformation and how people, flip the switch and do that 180, which is really what is an incredible part of being a disciple maker, is watching that transformation take place. So why has that become an important part of who you are as a Jesus follower?
That's a great question. I really think that it's always been part of who I am. And it started around 5th grade. I had a best friend. He's still my best friend today. So we've been friends for 25 years. And I remember he came from a really, really chaotic family. to the point where his stepmom was locking his food up. And I would invite him back to my house and we would feed him. And I wanted so badly to be his friend. And my mom was like, he's a bad influence. You can't hang out with him. And I would fight to be friends with him because something about him was important to me. I didn't understand it at the time, but I can look back on it now. And I think that's where I began training in ministry without even knowing it. And so just the natural ability, the natural gifting that I have is just who I am. Yeah. It's part of my everyday. My husband will say, stop counseling me. And I'm like, I don't know how to stop counseling you because it's just who I am. It just naturally flows that way.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I had a question in my mind, just popped right up. So, well, it's gone. But I mean, your giftedness in helping people process, your giftedness in helping people realize where they need to go from step one to step two, that's helped you to equip people to be better disciples. It's helped you to be a better disciple. How is that impacting your faith journey even today?
Oh, man. So I think, when you get into ministry, it's a very hard journey, right? And so I constantly have to reflect on the journey that I was put on when I first opened my Bible.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm going to forget and I'm going to give up. And so it's that constant reminder of turning back to Jesus and where he has called me to be. And, as we're talking about giftings, it really started with the exploration of my spiritual gifts too, which opened up, the counseling profession for me. I'm like, this is what I want to do, in ministry. Those were never my plans. Those were God's plans. And I'm blessed enough to just be able to say yes.
That's awesome. Tina, as we come toward the conclusion of our time together, like, what word of challenge would you give to leaders in Ohio when it comes to this practice of discipleship?
I would say I would challenge leaders to create opportunities outside of your walls. There is so much out there. And I think if you don't get outside the walls, you're missing out on a blessing. Something recently for me, I saw a woman when I was going out to eat, and she was huddled in a blanket. And I'm like, I saw her, but I didn't say anything right away. And I went in to eat, and I could not stop thinking about her. And so I went after dinner. I'm like, there's a reason I can't stop thinking about her. So I went over and I just sat next to her and talked to her. She was homeless. But just the opportunity to understand her story and how she got there was really, really powerful and was a huge blessing to me and even to her. And so I got to pray with her. I got to talk to her, hear her story. And I just think it offers a lot more compassion to people when we understand their story and where they come from.
I'm so glad that you said what you just said. I was recording a podcast episode just a little bit ago with a gentleman named Rob Wegner. And Rob basically says in our conversation, find your context, be engaged in your context, and get to know the people in your context. I mean, really, what you just said about getting out of your box. So he used the analogy of his neighborhood. He just moved into a new neighborhood and trying to find those people to be intentional with. Sometimes we like to stay right here, right?
Yes, we do.
And God's saying to us, no, I want you out of this to minister to the people around us. So, well, Tina, I'm glad that your grandma influenced you for Jesus, even though you didn't know it, and that you came to the place of receiving him, and now you are helping others to do the same kind of intentional evangelism in the lives of people. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Friends, thanks. If you have questions about lifestyle evangelism or even just being a everyday disciple, I know Tina well enough to know that she's willing to answer. You can look her up on Avenue Church, in Ontario. Check out their website. You can email her. Until the next time we drop an episode, we'll be looking again at this idea of discipleship throughout the year. So, Tina, thanks again for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right, we'll see you soon, friends.